Hey guys, today I'll be taking a look at the prospects of a 2024 run by former President Donald Trump. And at this point in time, it is clear that Donald Trump is going to be running for a second non-consecutive term in 2024. If you watched any of the recent interviews that he has given, he has said that he's already made that decision, and the only question left for him is when he will announce, basically before or after the midterms. And this should not be surprising at all. The former president has been on the campaign trail speaking at rallies as well as making big endorsements for the midterm elections. Basically, for the last 2 years, he's tried to stay politically relevant, and that in and of itself is basically a clear sign that Donald Trump is planning and will run again in 2024. And so, of course, now the question is whether or not he can actually win. Now, if he wants to win in 2024, he's going to have to win the Republican primary first. He's won it twice before, but in 2024, it's not going to be like in 2020. He is going to have to go through the entirety of the primary process. He is no longer the sitting president, so he is going to have to campaign and do those debates. And so right now, Donald Trump is still the front runner for the primary. He is still the favorite in the betting markets over Ron DeSantis, and really only Trump and DeSantis have any sort of chance at winning the nomination, at least according to the betting markets at this point. So really, it is a two-way race, and Ron DeSantis has not even announced a campaign. He is setting himself up for a future run, but whether that's 2024 or 2028 is still very much in question. So looking at the latest polls for the 2024 primary, Trump has around 50 to 60% support in most of these polls. DeSantis has around 20 to 30%. So Ron DeSantis does have a significant chunk of the Republican electorate, and that will be enough for him to start a very strong campaign if he ends up running in 2024. If you look at some of these other polls that have been released, look at a poll from Michigan. Trump only leads by 4%. And in Ron DeSantis' home state of Florida, Ron DeSantis leads by 22% against Donald Trump. So this race really is very competitive between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. Donald Trump is still the frontrunner. He still does have the advantage in most of the polls released, but Ron DeSantis really is giving him a run for his money. And so right now, even though many Republicans do support Donald Trump's 2024 bid, they do not want him announcing before the midterms because they fear that Donald Trump will make these midterms about Donald Trump a bit too much and less about Joe Biden. If you look at the approval rating of the current president, Joe Biden has a negative 19% approval rating. That is enough for Republicans to win the Senate and the House by themselves. And currently, they really are not doing that great. And so having Donald Trump run, who is also very unfavorably viewed, this would just put a wrench in their plans. Donald Trump would make the midterm elections more about his 2024 run than about how Joe Biden is doing. And Donald Trump's favorability is not great at all. He has a negative 15% approval rating, and he is not even the one in office. There's nothing that he is responsible for in the country right now. He is just the one that is at home as a private citizen. Joe Biden is the one running the country, so his approval rating is expected to be worse than that of Donald Trump's. So right now, looking at the generic ballot numbers, Republicans are only ahead by 1.1%. They were up by double that margin just at the beginning of this month, and so right now Republicans really do not need Donald Trump stepping into the spotlight and decreasing their chances of winning the Senate even more. If you look at the 538 forecast for the Senate, it is a pure coin toss at this point. Both parties have a 50% chance of winning, but if you look at their forecast just a few months ago, the Republican Party had a 6 in 10 chance at controlling the Senate. And if you look at many of the competitive races, Republicans are now not even favored to win in Nevada. They're expected to lose in the state of Arizona, and they're expected to lose in Pennsylvania as well. If you look at these toss-up races, Donald Trump had a huge influence on who the Republicans would nominate, and all of these Republicans that Donald Trump has endorsed are performing terribly against their Democratic opponents. In the state of Pennsylvania, Mehmet Oz is polling, 5 points behind on average against John Fetterman. In the state of Georgia, Raphael Warnock is now pulling ahead of Herschel Walker by around 3% on average. In Arizona, Blake Masters is down against Mark Kelly by almost double-digit margins. And in the state of Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto is even ahead in the polling average against Adam Laxalt. So the Republican Party is going to be harmed a lot by these Trump endorsements, and these endorsees only won their races because Donald Trump endorsed them. In the state of Ohio as well with J.D. Vance, J.D. Vance is barely leading over Tim Ryan. mean, he literally is behind in the polling average against Tim Ryan. He is still favored to win his race, but still, he is doing terribly for a Republican in a state that Donald Trump won in the past two presidential elections. And so if you look at this forecast based on polls alone, you see Democrats have a 57% chance at winning Nevada, 72 in Arizona, 57 in Georgia, 77 in Pennsylvania, and they're even favored to win in Georgia, with Tim Ryan having a 52% chance of winning. And this is what I mean when I say that the Republican candidates are not doing well. They simply are not doing well. All the data that we're seeing points to Democratic victories in every single one of the most competitive races. So if we look at the odds that Trump does announce before 2023, currently there is a 56% chance that he does announce his bid. And so I do think it is very likely that Trump does announce earlier on before 2023 begins, because Donald Trump is someone that likes to do things very quickly. If you look at the 2020 presidential election, he filed to run when he was inaugurated in 2017. So if you look at the odds here, I mean, his odds of announcing before the next year have increased significantly over the last 2 months, and that is because he is teasing his run more and more. I do not believe Donald Trump is going to announce before the midterms, but I think before 2023, after the Republicans potentially win the Senate and the House, I think that would be a good time for Donald Trump to run. If Democrats do indeed lose the Senate, the Republicans with Donald Trump could tout that victory, and Trump could use that to help boost his next presidential bid. And so now we'll be looking at whether or not Trump could actually win in a general election scenario against Joe Biden, the incumbent president. Yes, Joe Biden has said that he's going to run again, but that is not absolutely guaranteed at this point. I mean, in 2020, he said that he was not going to run basically until the moment that he announced. So we're just going to have to see what happens on the Democratic side. The midterms, I think, will affect Joe Biden's decision. Yes, most presidents do run for re-election, but Joe Biden is also the oldest president in American history, so you do have to take that into account as well. And so looking at the latest polling between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, you see that it really is very back and forth between both candidates. Both Biden and Trump have led in many of the most recent polls, so the polling really does not tell us too much about this race. I mean, even Gavin Newsom leads over Donald Trump in one of the most recent polls released, so these polls are not going to be the most accurate. I mean, we are 2 years out from the 2024 election, and yes, Joe Biden is unpopular right now, but if you look at every other president as they approach the 4-year mark, their approval ratings almost always went up, and the same thing is going to happen for Joe Biden as well. So Joe Biden is going to become more popular. I mean, at one point in time, he was approved by a majority of the country. So Joe Biden is going to see a rise in popularity if he does choose to run in 2024. His numbers are going to go up either way, even if he doesn't run in 2024. As the president leaves office, his numbers are going to go up. So for Joe Biden right now, if the election was held today, I do think that he would lose. However, 2024 is still over 2 years away, and a lot can change since then. If Joe Biden really starts to actively campaign against Donald Trump, that is going to make a difference as well. So I'm going to start off by filling in the solid states on this map, basically the same solid states that we had in 2020, almost identical. As polarization continues to increase across the country, these more solid states are just going to become more and more solid for their respective parties. So of course, the solid states for Joe Biden is going to give him 181 electoral votes, and the solid states for Donald Trump are going to add up to a little bit less than that. He is going to win, I believe, a total of 113 electoral votes from his solid states. And so now we're going to start filling in the likely states on this map. Basically, a solid state is a state that we would expect to go to either candidate by around 15% or more. Likely is between 5 to 15%. Lean would be between 1 and 5%. So these are the very competitive races. And the most competitive races are going to be tilt states, where we will see margins of between 0 to 1%. So starting off with the likely states for Donald Trump, I have the state of Texas. Trump has not always done well in Texas. In 2020, he only won the state by 5%. And this is a state that has not voted for a Democrat since 1976 and the election of Jimmy Carter over Gerald Ford. This was the last time the Democrats basically won the South. And if you look at the 2012 election, Texas was solid red. So Texas is not as solid of a Republican stronghold state as it once was, but in 2024, there's really no doubt that it will still vote for Donald Trump. I also have the states of South Carolina and Alaska. He won both of these states by double digits in 2020 as well as in 2016, and I see no reason why it would be any different this time around. I also have both the states of Iowa and Ohio. I mean, these two states honestly are the most impressive wins that Donald Trump has seen in the last two presidential elections, in my opinion. If you look at both Iowa and Ohio just in 2012, they both voted for Barack Obama. 5.8% was the margin in Iowa and 3% in Ohio. In 2016, he won both of these states by almost double digits, and in 2020, despite Joe Biden being said to be a much better candidate than Hillary Clinton, Trump still won both of these states by almost identical margins. So his wins in Iowa and Ohio really were very impressive, and they basically have flipped these two states for the next couple of decades in favor of the Republican Party, and so that is why I'm going to, of course, keep Iowa and Ohio as likely Republican states. And the final likely region in the country I have for Donald Trump is the 2nd District of Maine. I think this district will obviously go to the former president once again. He also flipped this district in 2016 and won it once again in 2020. And so now for the likely states for Joe Biden, we have quite a few as well, starting off with the states of Colorado and New Mexico. Joe Biden won Colorado by 13% last time and 10% in New Mexico. I don't think he's going to win by double digits this time around, but I do think the margin will remain over 5%. Same thing in Virginia, 10% margin in 2020. I think he will hold on to the 5% margin though. I will also give Joe Biden the state of New Hampshire. I think that with it being in the Northeast, it will remain over 5% for the incumbent president. Of course, Joe Biden won the state of New Hampshire by 7.4%. This was a big shift from 2016 when the state almost went for Donald Trump. This was the second closest race of the year, closer than both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So the state of New Hampshire I still have as being a likely state for Joe Biden, as well as the at-large vote in the state of Maine. And so these are basically going to be all of the likely states that I have for the incumbent president. So now we have 215 electoral votes for Joe Biden with the solid and likely states filled in, and 189 for Donald Trump. And so now we see a very similar map to that of 2020. We basically have the competitive races being in the upper Midwest as well as the Sun Belt here. So I'm going to fill in the 2nd District of Nebraska for Donald Trump. This district is not very important at all. Donald Trump's going to win it. I'm going to give it to him with a lean margin. Not anything that we should really be going over here, but looking at the remainder of these races, these 113 electoral votes are going to decide whether or not Trump will win a second term in office. So in these upper Midwestern states, Joe Biden did win all 4 of them in 2020. He also won Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. So the only 2 competitive races that Trump won in 2020 were North Carolina and Florida. In 2024, I think he would win these states once again. He won North Carolina by 1.3% and Florida by 3.4%. Both of these states were expected to go to Joe Biden over Georgia. Most forecasts had Georgia going for Trump and North Carolina and Florida going for Joe Biden. So this was pretty surprising, but in 2024, I don't expect there to be that significant of a shift. I do think North Carolina and Florida will remain in the Trump columns. In 2020, North Carolina did get a bit close for the GOP. I think much closer than they really wanted it. The last time a Democrat won was in 2008 when Obama won the state by 0.3%. Before that, you have to go all the way back to the election of Jimmy Carter to see a Democrat win in North Carolina. In 2016, Trump won the state by 3.7%, so Joe Biden did do well in North Carolina in 2020. But 2024, I don't expect him to flip North Carolina at all. In Florida, he won the state by a larger margin than in 2016. This was one of the only states that Trump actually improved his margin upon from 2016 to 2020, so Florida is going to remain in the Republican column. I will also give them the state of Georgia as a lean state. Yes, Joe Biden won the state in 2020 by a margin of 0.2%, but this was when his favorability was in the positives. I think that right now, with Joe Biden's popularity looking like this, I think it would be difficult for him to hold on to a state that he won by 0.23%. Just, I believe, 10,000 votes was the margin splitting Biden and Trump. And the next state I want to look at is the state of Michigan. I think Michigan is going to remain in the Democratic column as a lean Democratic state. Biden, of course, won the state by 2.8% in 2020. He won Minnesota by 7%, but as Minnesota continues to shift to the right, I think Joe Biden's going to carry the state, but by a lean margin as well. I think it's going to be closer to 5%, though Michigan is going to be closer to 1%. And so these are all of the lean states covered. Before I move on, comment down below who you think would win in a scenario between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in 2024 and how you feel about Trump running once again. So looking at these final 4 states, what I'm basically trying to say here is that the election is going to be very close. No matter who I give these states to, we are still 2 years away from the 2024 election. But I do think that either candidate does have the advantage in the states that I have already put in. But these 4 states, I think, are going to be the 4 that end up deciding the 2024 election. Whether they go for Joe Biden or Donald Trump is purely a mystery at this point because they're not even the actual candidates yet. So I'm going to start off by giving Donald Trump the state of Wisconsin. I do think he would have a slight edge here if he were to run in 2024. I mean, his 10 electoral votes are going to be crucial for him, and he did win the state in 2016. Donald Trump won Wisconsin by a larger margin in 2016 than Joe Biden in 2020, and I mean, with a 0.6% margin, looking at this graph here, I think it would be difficult for Biden to hold on to Wisconsin. The state of Arizona as well, I'm going to give Arizona to Donald Trump. This does put him over 270 electoral votes. I think that Arizona is going to be closer than Georgia. Arizona is a state that's been shifting left for a much longer amount of time, and it has seen a much more drastic shift, but still the state of Arizona is going to be very, very competitive. Again, Joe Biden won the state by 0.3% in 2020, and I mean, look at this graph. It would be difficult for him to win again. But I do think Joe Biden is going to hold on to both Pennsylvania and Nevada. Both of these races voted for Joe Biden by lean margins. I think the margin is going to go down in both of these races, but still, as of right now, I would give these states Joe Biden. So 273 for Donald Trump, 265 for Joe Biden is my final projection here. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the 2024 election is going to be just as competitive as the election in 2020 and just as competitive as the 2022 midterms, with both parties having a very good chance at winning Senate control. So I think we're going to see very competitive elections for the next couple of years. And so yeah, right now in the 2024 scenario that we have between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I do think Trump would end up on top very, very slightly. But again, this race is going to be almost a pure toss-up, as of course we are still 2 years away. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.